Well, hi, kids. I hope that you are having a wonderful week. I am so glad to get to see you today and continue talking to you about our new series. We're in week number 2, and the series is Jesus Is. And you can probably tell from the picture that this is a series that is getting us ready for Christmas. That's right. And each week in this series, we are going to be thinking about a name that has been given to Jesus. Last week, we learned about the name Wonderful. Isaiah gave that name to Jesus, right? Wonderful. What comes next? Counselor. That's right. Jesus is a wonderful counselor. Now, when you think of the name or the word counselor, what comes to mind? I thought that you might say that. Your school counselor, right? And what does that school counselor do for you? Yeah, he or she listens to you and maybe helps you get along with your friends better, or helps you solve problems, or just helps you with your day in school, right? Yes. Well, Isaiah also called Jesus a counselor, but Jesus is not just a school counselor, right? He is like the ultimate counselor and can help us with all of our problems, right? Yeah, yeah. There were 3 wise people who went to Jesus. Even the 3 wise people, who were they? Yeah, that's right. The 3 kings, the 3 wise men, even those 3 wise men went to Jesus knowing that Jesus would be their counselor as well. And so today we are going to hear about their story from Matthew chapter 2. And, I hear him. Do you hear our helper? The person who helps us with our stories? Oh, there he is. Hi, Rudy. How are you? You're so good. Oh, you seem very willing this week to say hi to our friends. Are you glad to be back? Oh, I'm so glad. You might remember last week, Rudy was a little bit nervous. You got through that? All right. Well, Rudy is going to help tell our story. And this time, whenever, Rudy, you hear me say wise men, yes, you are either going to stand up or sit down or raise your hand or put it down, and you're going to help me with the story, right? Okay, all right. Well, let's hear our story about the wise men from Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 to 18. Today's Bible story is found in Matthew chapter 2. King Herod was the king of Judea, where many of the Jewish people lived. By this time, he was very old and very sick. He was not doing very good. Herod did not treat his people fairly either. No, he wasn't a very nice person, was he? No, not at all. One day, King Herod got a visit from 3 wise men. There we go. Who had come from a very long distance. The wise men arrived in Jerusalem and went straight to the palace of Herod. They asked him, "Where is the new king of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose in the east, and we have come to worship him." King Herod, do you think he was happy? Nope, he was confused. He was confused. After all, he was the king of the Jewish people. Who could the wise men be talking about? Herod asked some of his priests and philosophers, and they gave the answers. The new king that these wise men were talking about was the Messiah, the one whom Isaiah had prophesied about. They were talking about Jesus. King Herod was angry. He was not excited at all about the possibility of losing his throne to this new baby Jesus. So King Herod made a plan to get rid of him. So the wise men left King Herod and traveled until they arrived at the home where Jesus was staying in Bethlehem. When they arrived, they presented gifts. Do you remember what those gifts were? Yeah, gold and frankincense and myrrh to Jesus. Then, before they left to return to King Herod, God gave the wise men a dream. God told them that he did not want the wise men to return to King Herod. Now, when King Herod didn't see the wise men come back, how do you think he felt? That's right, even more angry. Yes, he ordered his soldiers to go to Bethlehem and to kill every baby boy that was under 2 years old. That was savage, wasn't it? Yeah. However, because of the dream God gave the wise men, Jesus was safe and sound and away from King Herod and his soldiers. God knew that they needed help, so God gave the wise men wisdom. Even the wise men needed a counselor. In your lesson today, we're going to hear about how Jesus is a wise counselor and Jesus can help you in any situation. Did you like that story? Yeah. Isn't it good to know that we can go to God, we can go to Jesus whenever we need a counselor? Yeah, that is really good to know. Will you come back next week and help tell our story? Oh, he's so excited to get to see you again. All right, we'll say bye-bye, Rudy. We're so glad you came and joined us today. Well, our power verse today says this. It's from Psalm 32:8. The Lord says, I will guide you along the best pathway for your life. I will advise and watch over you. Isn't that good to know? That God will advise you, God will watch you, and keep you on the right path. That is really good news. You know, life brings a lot of questions, doesn't it? Maybe your mom and dad have been asking a lot of questions this week as they're trying to figure out how to have you do remote school. Are any of you having to figure out how to do remote school? Yeah. You might be asking, how do we get this computer to work right? Questions like that. Or how do I get all the materials that I'm supposed to be studying? Yeah. You might be even asking other questions like, how can we make this technology work? Or how can we make sure that someone's around to help through school because mom and dad are both working? That's a really big question too, isn't it? Yeah. Or how will people stay safe? And that's important too. Yeah. So life brings us lots of questions. And right now, during this time of the pandemic, we have huge questions, don't we? When is this going to end? Yeah. Well, we sure hope that it ends very soon. Until then, though, we know that we can go to God because God knows all things. We in our little brains, we don't know everything. We know a lot, and you're learning a lot, but we don't know everything. But God does, and we can take peace and find comfort in that, knowing that God knows everything. And, you know, in those times when we are having questions, one of the things that we can do is that we can go to God and ask God. We can pray to Jesus and say, I am struggling with my math. I don't understand it. I don't like having to do math at home. God, please help me. We can do that. Because if you ask Jesus for wisdom, Jesus will give it to you. Now, I will have to say, there's a little bit of something that sometimes people forget when they talk to God or when they talk to Jesus. Sometimes they just talk and talk and talk, and we forget to use our ears. We forget to listen then. So when we talk to God, we have to make sure that after we share with God, just like a friend, you don't have to use fancy words, just talk to God like you talk to a friend. Then we have to close our mouths and sit quietly and wait and listen for God to talk back to us. And sometimes it takes a while. I know. I hope that you are having a good week And I hope that in the weeks to come, you will realize that Jesus can be your wonderful counselor. Next week, we're going to keep on talking about all of those names for Jesus. And so I invite you to come back next week when we will start with our next lesson. Have a good week. Bye-bye.